we had 4 categories in the quarterfinals: K through 12, higher ed, workforce, and tech, and an open category for people from all around the world. I think from here, the furthest we traveled is, yeah? Hungary?
Yes, from Hungary.
Yeah, so quite a distance. We appreciate you coming all this way to pitch your amazing companies that deal with education and social networks and communities all around education. Thank you to our amazing panel and our judges for coming out, and we're looking forward to some really good questions, and yeah, thank you so much. Let me just pop through here so I can introduce everybody. Tina, why we have that? I think I'm gonna.
Nice to meet you.
John, sorry. Tina, Elizabeth Chow was in the back for a minute, but I think we have a full panel already. So Barbara, hi, Michelle, Fred, and George. Good. All right. So is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Let's get started. Can I give this to you?
Hi, I'm Asha Owens, co-founder and CEO of BestFit. How did you choose your college? If you're like me, you did so without talking to any alumni and without ever stepping foot on campus. I used brochures and websites to make my decision, and I got lucky. Here's why. There are over 5,000 colleges in the United States, and their marketing materials all look the same. There are girls in white lab coats and students studying on the ground. Now, I took a gamble on Brown, and it happened to be a great academic, social, and financial fit. However, there are millions of students out there that won't be as fortunate. In fact, 75% of low-income, underrepresented, and first-generation students who attend college will not graduate. Many of them attend schools that are not equipped to support their success. At the same time, this has a huge financial impact on colleges. They lose almost $20 billion a year to poor retention. And although they spend about $7 billion a year on recruiting, 50% still fail to meet their enrollment goals. Right now, they're looking for creative solutions to solve this problem. And this is where BestFit comes in. BestFit is shaping the next wave of innovation in college decision-making and recruiting, all while saving students and colleges billions of dollars. We do this by ensuring students don't make college decisions based on chance. We use data and storytelling to bring these brochures and websites to life. And in doing so, we help students assess whether the schools that they are looking at meet their personal definition of fit. As students explore the app, they develop profiles, discover schools, and engage with videos from current college students. BestFit uses machine learning to make sure students see content based on where they are in the college search pipeline. At the same time, colleges license BestFit to expand their recruiting funnel, increase the visibility of their offerings, and analyze student engagement throughout the recruiting funnel. BestFit does more than provide colleges with student leads. We help them analyze who is interested, why they're applying, and how to best engage them. As a result, students who discover their best fit are more likely to apply, enroll, and persist. BestFit allows colleges to expand their reach while optimizing spending. We offer broader reach than in-person recruiting and higher conversion rates than sending direct mail. At the same time, we're closing the communications gap between students and colleges. Over the past few months, we've spent time optimizing our 4 crucial channels and validating their efficacy. They are digital marketing, partnerships, free press, and events. This month, we finished our pilot study with a Manhattan high school with more than 60 students, and the guidance counselor is excited about our work. She's asked us to return to represent Columbia University at their upcoming college fair, and to return and bring BestFit to the entire senior class when admissions decisions are released this fall. By our 3rd week, students said that BestFit deserved to be its own class. We're a group of software engineers and educators, and our expertise has allowed us to build out our MVP, recommendation engine, and curriculum. Within a year, we've taken BestFit from an award-winning idea to a company sponsored by top universities and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We're gearing up for our beta launch, and we can't wait to test Best Fit with a wider audience. We're looking for introductions to additional high schools and colleges to partner with, and we're currently fundraising as we work to reach our next milestone, our first paying customer. And we look forward to your support as we continue to shape the future of innovation in college recruiting and create a clearer, more defined path to college. Thank you.
So I think we have 1 minute for questions, or 3 minutes, yeah? Good.
Thanks so much, Joshua. Could you talk a little bit more about how you guys are differentiated vis-a-vis other discovery platforms and apps that are out there?
Yep, so one of the biggest ways that we're different is typical college discovery platforms tend to focus on objective data. So for students like me, when you don't know anyone who's been to a school, if you're a first generation student, you don't have context to interpret that data. So what we try to do is get videos from current college students that can really speak to the experience of what it's like to maybe be a first generation student, a low income student, or a student of color at each of these schools.
Thank you for planning. I'm just curious to hear, how are you planning on expanding within the consumer side of your business within high school students? Is it through partnerships with different districts and high schools, or is it more of an organic approach?
Yep, so partnerships are one big part of it. Social media and direct to consumer is another one. And then also parents, helping them figure out how to navigate this process is a very big hurdle as well. So we think that we can reach students through that too.
Who actually are your customers? Is it the schools or is it the individual students?
It's the colleges. So the colleges pay to have access to the analytics, and that's where we're starting as an analytics platform and then building to a full-fledged recruiting platform.
So the same question as Fred, but on the school side, acquisition strategy. What's the conversation with colleges? How's that going?
So acquiring the colleges. Yep, so right now we're planning to start with our own personal connections and the connections of our mentors. So reaching out to schools like Teachers College, where we attended, Columbia, where we attended, and then Brown. And then ideally our mentors will help us reach more colleges. And then when we get a school on board for our partnership, then we can take that to peers in similar segments and then make our case to them.
What's up?
Did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I was just wondering, what stage are you guys? So like, I know you talked about like how you hope to have like a beta by like spring, and then what was the other thing? A first paying customer by autumn. So like, I guess like, what's like the biggest thing that you guys are like working on currently?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we're working on is the beta. So what we found, we've been doing all the development, design, partnership, all the work between my co-founder and I. So now we're raising money to expand our team and expedite development of the beta.
That's great. Thank you so much.
If you can keep the questions just to the judges, that would be really nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I should have clarified. So they have the companies have 7 minutes, and so average about 4 to 5 minutes to pitch, and then they'll have 2 to 3 minutes for questions from the judges. Awesome.
Hi everyone, I'm Anant Kasturi-Raman, the co-founder and CEO of Skillist. It's an honor to be here with so many innovative and game-changing companies. Skillist is a skill-based hiring platform that's creating a fairer, more effective way for job seekers and employers to connect. Why is this important? It's because a focus on degrees has broken the labor market. We hear constantly about low unemployment and a record number of unfilled jobs in the United States, but the fact is that there are tens of millions of skilled Americans looking for opportunities who aren't even considered for many entry-level career track jobs because they don't have a 4-year college degree. Even when hires are being made in entry-level roles, the process or practice of degree inflation has been linked to a longer time to fill, increased turnover, greater cost per hire, and a reduction in diversity. To contextualize this problem a little bit, I'd like to introduce you to Vicky, a real Skillist job seeker. Like so many Americans today, Vicky did start 4-year college but couldn't afford to finish. She worked in a number of temporary and part-time roles, acquiring valuable professional skills, but struggled to land in a full-time, salaried, benefited job because her resume lacked coherence. She had a number of overlapping roles, gaps in employment, and didn't have a credential beyond high school. Understandably, she was incredibly frustrated and disillusioned with the job search process. But importantly, she's not alone. Employers are increasingly becoming aware that this is a massive issue. In recent months, we've seen headlines that indicate that 90% of employers are now ready to accept candidates without four-year college degrees. 60% or more of employers are now indicating that they're considering moving towards or trying to implement skill-based hiring. And a recent convening of policy and economic leaders concluded that a bachelor's degree is often used by employers as a signal rather than actual qualification, and employers need to get better at understanding how to actually identify and capture skills. This is exactly what we built at Skills. We've made a platform that enables companies and candidates to communicate clearly around skills instead of proxies like university names, degrees, keywords, and job titles. And so this creates much more alignment and better outcomes for both sides. Here's how it works transparently. A job seeker on our platform is able to look and understand what skills an employer is actually looking for before they decide whether or not to apply. In applying, instead of submitting a resume, they're actually able to provide examples of how they have all the skills the company really needs. Because of the fact that they go through this process, the employer is able to review candidates through an identity blind method that actually highlights a candidate's skills and relevance for the role. And so when comparing people, they're actually doing so on a level playing field, which leads again to better outcomes and a reduction of bias in a lot of the harms of this space. Just want to take a step back here to reiterate that what we're essentially doing is building a skills marketplace, and the opportunity here is massive. The most direct application is obviously in talent acquisition, which is already a more than $100 billion market. But in getting a better understanding of the skills that people have and skills that employers need, there are tremendous ramifications for both how people learn and how they upskill over time. And I'm happy to talk more about that in Q&A. The reason we're so excited about this is that since launching in April in Boston, we've seen great results. Our job seekers love the experience and have already given us a positive 30% net promoter score in a space that's notoriously difficult, where companies like Indeed and Monster are getting negative net promoter scores from job seekers. We've also seen great results with better interview and offer rates for job seekers, and have shown that we're able to serve a traditionally underserved and overlooked population with our product. This is also working for companies. We've been working with a number of the best companies in Boston, including Wayfair, DraftKings, EasyCater, and others, and we've seen that they're really happy with results too, with most of our employers hiring multiple skills candidates for their open roles and transitioning from trials and pilots into annual contracts. We've seen consistent growth in customers and revenue, and expect this to continue over the next year. We're actually in the process of raising our seed round, and over this year, we'll be investing in our team, releasing the next scaled-up version of our product, and scaling from Boston into New York and the Bay Area. And we expect that by Q1 of 2020, we'll be at $1 million in annual recurring revenues. We're the team that can fix this problem. We have deep cross-functional experience, both in serving the kinds of job seekers who have been left out of the job market for so long, but also in understanding what companies need and how we can get it to them. And we're really excited to keep building on this solution. I just want to take a step back and revisit Vicky, because on our platform, she was able to find a job that actually matched all the skills she really did have, explain how she was a great fit, and get hired. And the company actually ended up hiring 4 other candidates on our platform as well. We're really excited to scale up our impact and help millions of other Americans like Vicky land in the roles they should be. Thank you.
So you're not a two-sided marketplace. Your customer is the corporation, is that correct?
We are a marketplace.
It's not really a question, I mean, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but so is that your business?
So only employers pay us. We serve both sides, but only employers pay us as customers.
And then when you talk about people sort of self-assessing their skills on the platform, how do you, number one, assure that the quality, number one, and then the other thing is, lots of research shows that there are certain demographics that will underplay their talents, and other people will overestimate their talents. And you did talk about how you're trying to reduce bias. So how do you get around both of those issues?
Great question. So the first reason that we built this around evidence-based examples is there's actually a lot of pedagogical research that having someone go through the process of understanding why they have done something or why they have a skill leads to much more validation than just summarizing bullet points. And so there's actually a lot of evidence around this working a lot better for job seekers, and employers have been happy with it. We've asked them. In terms of level setting, we actually, in building our product, we've built in a lot of coaching support structures for a person to understand when you provide an example, right? What's the situation you were in? How did you approach this? What are the results you saw? In a way that's creating more structure for people who may not have received coaching before to be able to think about and provide great examples. And again, just create more structured data for employers to review.
Can you talk a little bit about the team and how you see the model scaling?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of our team, my co-founder Caroline really thinks a lot about the job seeker side of the platform. Her experience is in counseling and student service, and I think a lot about the employer side of the platform. And so what we're really trying to do is develop a product that can interact effectively with both sides. So how does this fit with existing recruiting companies' processes and into their tech stack? How does this fit seamlessly into a job seeker who's looking on their phone or online to apply? And as we scale, what we really want to do in terms of where we're planning to invest is in engineering. We think there are tremendous applications in machine learning and natural language processing that'll help with a lot of what we're doing in terms of prioritizing jobs for people, prioritizing applicants for candidates. So this isn't going to be a tech-enabled staff agency. It'll really be a product that can drive better interaction on both sides. If that answered your question. Thank you. Just getting all the appendix slides. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Sylvia Hall.
I'm Jared Hall.
Raise your hand if this sounds familiar to you. How was your day?
Fine.
What did you do at school today?
Nothing.
Right? Yes, we can, yeah, thank you. This can happen 30 to 40 million times a day. So we're gonna share with you why we need to change this dialogue now. We are Gabon, and we get families talking about school every day. Research tells us that the most accurate predictor of student achievement is the extent to which their family is involved in his or her education. And yet, getting parents engaged is one of the most challenging efforts for educators. Science proves parent engagement and conversations improve academics, strengthen neurology, they develop social and emotional learning skills, and it can actually build a love of learning. This is our son, Austin, and he is the inspiration behind Gabon. So Austin learns differently. He has an IEP, and after years of trying to connect with him about his day at school, Jared went to his teacher and said, "Why doesn't Austin tell us about his day?" And she said, "Asking Austin to remember his day is like asking a blind person to look harder. He neurologically can't remember his day." So we built Gabon for Austin. And after a few weeks of using this, our daughter came to us, who's a general education student, and she said, "I'd like to use this too." And thankfully, her teacher agreed. And after a month, her teacher came to us and said, "I want to use this for the whole class." And then the teacher beside her said, "I want to use this." And a teacher in another school, and then a school. And over a very short period of time, we have grown organically into 3 states and over 300 families. Because this means so much to so many. Every child faces different challenges. Austin neurologically can't remember his day. Jamie, using Gabon in Connecticut, has 6.5 hours of school a day, has homework, extracurricular activities. She is overwhelmed by her day and doesn't know where to begin or how to tell a story about her day with her family.
Teachers spend hours writing emails to update parents. Schools send newsletters out as often as they can. The problem is, this is the teacher talking to the parent. Where is the student? We're bringing the student into the loop in the process. As we're going through the patent process right now, we are convinced and we know that using GABs can unlock the conversation for a family. Twitter has tweets, Gabon has GABs. GABs are 1 to 5 words that are hints and reminders about a school day. The students take about a minute or two and enter them into the sheet. And that's all they have to do in the period of a day. And then Austin's first GAB was onion skin and lake water, the one right up there. And you might say, well, what is that all about? And that's exactly the point. It takes a conversation to understand what that means. And that's what we're looking for with Gabon. So once the student enters the GABs, the teacher reviews for about 30 seconds, enters 1 or 2 GABs of their own, publishes to the parents, and at the end of the day, they have a conversation around the dinner table, in the car, wherever they can find a minute. The student can look at the GABs, reflect on the day, recall an event, and talk about that with the family. The other part of this is tracking. Consistent conversations can have a dramatic impact on a child's brain. John Gabrielli, an MIT professor, has proven scientifically that consistent conversations will grow a child's brain. As we've built out Gabon, we've realized we can manage multiple scenarios in a K through 12 scenario. One of the scenarios is a one-to-one, where a special education student can enter their GABs on their GAB sheet and send their GABs to their parents. However, in a general education setting, you can also have 1 to 3 students represent the entire class, create the GABs, enter the GABs, and send them out to all the parents in the classroom. We built Gabon under the guidance of educators. We wanted to give time back to the educators. We also wanted to make it easy and simple for them to weave Gabon into the fabric of their classrooms.
So, it may not be the sexiest EdTech platform that you see today, but we're going to be the most simple to deploy and use in school and at home, and the most impactful. Because think about this, we're getting kids to continue their learning outside of the classroom. We're working on their communication skills, their advocacy skills. These aren't soft skills. These are essential skills that help get them into higher education and into the workplace. Getting families talking about school every day does give time back to teachers, but it also meets district and state requirements for parent engagement goals. Our team and our board of advisors is rooted in education and technology. And Austin, well, with amazing teachers and a full year of using GABs, Austin won the Grit Award for his grades. He and his teachers and principal all felt that success. So can you imagine if every child can feel that same way Austin felt that day? Well, they can. Use Gab on. Thank you.
We have about 1 minute for questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sylvia and Jared. Just a couple of questions about the 300 families who are using the product so far. Have they opted in? What are you guys seeing in terms of like engagement over time? Is it daily, or what does that look like?
Yeah, usually what we see when it's offered to a classroom in general, about 89% of the parents sign up, and there's consistent use of about 50 to 60% over 2 to 3 days per week. And it varies between families. Sometimes there's weeks on and there's weeks off. But we see 56% consistently using it.
And have you seen any, sorry? Do you want to finish?
Teachers love it, they use it every day.
Okay. Have you seen any outcomes or results across the families that are using it in terms of educational achievement?
So we do have some testimonials in terms of educational achievement.
Or whatever results you've seen.
Yeah, the testimonials have been very powerful about how it gives a window into the child's day. It opens up conversations they've never had before about some of the special ed students. And the teachers really look at it as really changing and transforming how kids look at school and how they engage with school.
We're working with a researcher from Harvard Mind and Body, looking at efficacy and looking at how this impacts student engagement in the classroom, and also talking about the neurology and how those neurons that start firing together start wiring together. So we're
Efficacy is our big next step.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Morning, judges and audience. I'm Dustin Minocha, founder and CEO of NearPeer. At NearPeer, we're focused on increasing college peer engagement to increase enrollment in colleges, because simply put, students who are more engaged with their peers are more committed to college. It's so important. That's so important today because colleges are under enrollment pressure, as many of you know from shifting demographics. All but the most elite institutions are under enrollment pressure, with some even questioning their future, and that makes them more motivated to find solutions like ours that increase enrollment, to be able to capture every student and make sure that they stick. Within the broad category of a student journey, we focus today most heavily on summer melt, or for online programs, sometimes that's called no-shows. Students who apply are accepted, send in their deposit, and don't show up at the beginning of the term. We also have enrollment and retention benefits, which we'll save for another discussion. But the importance of summer melt and saving those students is that the value to every institution is between 25 and 150K per student. For an in-state public university student, that's about $25K. For a private university, about $150K. And so it's doing important work for students while serving the university and their financial pressures. I'll get to how we do it, but in terms of the punchline and how we lead in our presentations with colleges as well, is that we increase tuition for them. In this case study, we increased tuition by $1.3 million by reducing summer melt 16%. And we did that by helping foster connections between students that increase their commitment and attachment to the university to get them to show up. And this is also notable because what we're doing is, as we talked about, driving peer influence, where most solutions today are automating or making more effective the interaction between students and staff. We're actually driving peer engagement, one of the hardest things to do. And we do that starting with the realization, as many of you may be aware, that students today are more connected, yet more isolated. It feels like they're connected too many ways, through too many apps, on their phone too much time, but the reality is the quality of that interaction is very low. And so students who are connected to each other, let's say through an incoming Facebook page for their university, may still be very likely to sit by themselves on a Friday night watching TV. Why does that happen? It happens because the quality of that interaction is low, and particularly when you couple that isolation with increased pressure of students, it pushes students out of college. And unfortunately, social media is many times hurting students more than helping them in this area, particularly introverts who are often not comfortable posting messages in large groups. And so the isolated students get more isolated, and the cycle continues. How we change that is we roll out NearPeer, which is students use through a mobile app, and broadly it's a platform and network behind it, where we stand up in front of students at summer orientation, as well as invite them through email and text. And we say, if you want to get to know your peers, sign up. It's voluntary, you don't have to do it. If you don't want to meet your peers, you don't have to do anything. In a 20 to 30 minute session where we roll out in front of college students, 2/3 to 3/4 of students will sign up and create a profile about themselves. As soon as it's a sign of the large unmet need that students actually do want meaningful interaction with their peers and they don't have it today. As soon as students sign up, they immediately can see what else they have in common with fellow students. In a real life example from the case study that I showed you, for example, to see that I can see with a fellow incoming student, we're in the same college within the university, which means we're in a related major. We're both fall 2018 incoming students. We're both transfer students, and we have 4 other interests in common: hiking, watching movies, and 2 others. And I can then view someone's profile, again, all information that students volunteer, and a high amount of it because they're so motivated to connect with their peers, to see things like their major, their bio, other interests that they have, where they're from, their hometown, where they transferred from, Bunker Hill, all to humanize the interaction between peers and reduce the barrier for them to connect. That has resulted, and we launched NearPeer MVP in just about a year's time, a product that works, that drives high initial student adoption, high efficacy, high ongoing repeat use. Students use NearPeer 20 times each on average throughout the summer, and high impact. We have a very strong team. I came from Semifinals Learning and the executive team. Previously, I was at Bizarre Voice, a company we took public in 2012. Christopher Quinn in the audience is our Chief Operating Officer, ran 15 campuses for Purdue Global, and a great team of advisors that we're grateful to have for our support. Our go-to-market strategy is pretty straightforward. We work primarily with 4-year institutions that have issues with MELT, and at those institutions, they pay us an annual fee based on the size of institution to deliver results. Those results, measured by 4-year tuition lift, are 20 to 40x ROI. And we sell somewhat directly, but largely in partnership with Ruffalo No 11ths, a partnership that we cemented in December and launched this month in January, where if you don't know R&L, they are the 800-pound gorilla, sort of the Accenture of college enrollment services, where we sell into their 1,900 colleges and universities that are their clients. They have about 100 sales and service team members in this space. We're one of just 5 strategic partners of theirs, which gives us immediate credibility, of course, speed in selling into their accounts, but also immediate credibility for others, because the ed tech space can be a bit crowded, so having that vetting and credibility is important. And we have alignment in that partnership from the CEO on down to the field. For those of you who've done partnerships know that ultimately what's important is that the salesperson or service person in the field knows that they will get compensated for the work that they do, and we have alignment all the way through. So we're set up for a very strong 2019 and into 2020, and we're excited about our future, and thank you. Questions?
So I'm curious to hear, how are you facilitating improved communication with incoming freshman students when compared to, let's say, a Facebook group that has all of the same students?
The biggest thing is that fundamentally, if you look at a Facebook group, and we never say don't have a Facebook group, but about 15%, 20% of students are highly engaged. They'll post and introduce themselves in front of 2,000 students, and 80% of them will just lurk and watch. Maybe they'll press like. But so the quality of interaction in those groups leaves students out. We change that to drive one-on-one interaction to say, I can see that what I have in common with you, Fred, is that we're actually, based on location search, we're not that far away from each other, and we have similar interests. We might even be in a similar major, so I would connect individually with you. The other part of that is that the basis on which I'm doing that is what you've volunteered in your profile for the purpose of connecting with me. Whereas if I were to go research you on Facebook and I said, hey, I saw these things in common, that can feel more like Facebook stalking, or it's less socially acceptable to say I did a lot of research about you online and I realized we have a bunch of stuff in common. So we bring that to the top and make those recommendations so students can really blame us for the recommendations. Yes.
Do we have time for a question?
Okay.
Are we done? Just time. How does the platform evolve over time? So like after the initial kind of summer melt period, when obviously like people don't know one another and everybody's finding their feet, what's the next phase look like?
It's so we today import the class schedule. So classes and student activities are a simple answer to carry through that first year experience. And then we're also building out, that we have today, but we're also building out for students who stop out, how to be able to stay in touch with those students, so that, because that's the hardest challenge. Students don't like to talk on the phone or email. Those are usually the mechanisms that colleges use to get those students back. So this helps them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Janusz Winter. I'm CEO and founder of InSim. You know that in the past 8 years, there have been more than 6 billion airline passengers who traveled in the United States, and all of them traveled without having a single fatal accident. What's the reason behind this? One of the main reasons is that pilots train and they are examined every 6 months using simulators, all the emergency procedures. So as a recently graduated physician, when I go to see my first patient, who could be the 5-year-old Elizabeth Doe, how can I be this confident that I will make the correct decisions and I will diagnose her correctly? And I'm not alone with my concern. Biomedical students are confident that they receive good theoretical education. When it comes to working with patients, they have much less confidence. 10, 20, 30. Do you know what these numbers mean? These are the number of patients who are misdiagnosed right in these seconds as I'm speaking, just in the United States alone. Out of the more than 200 million adult patient visits, according to studies, more than 10 million every year result in a misdiagnosis, and there's a $19 billion direct cost of these misdiagnoses, and this is just for this country alone. So is a patient simulator possible? At InSimulation, we believe that it is. InSimulation, our product, educates medical students providing virtual patients to prepare them to work and diagnose patients as future doctors. In our app, patient comes in with their chief complaints, and the student can order any of the 400 tests available anytime, just like in real life. And when they are ready for a diagnosis, they select diagnosis and they are given a complete feedback about their selection. We have also developed a unique algorithm making it possible to create hundreds or thousands of virtual patients from a same disease template. So we don't have to script virtual patients, each of them, but we can create a finite number of templates and then generate infinitely many virtual patients. So just to make it clear where we are, Ensimo is not a quiz. It's not an educational video. It's not an interactive book. And it's not an immovable tool that can only be used in a simulation center or classroom at medical school. Ensimo is a mobile app that gives users the freedom of choice, unlimited number of patients, the feeling of real responsibility, and the mobility to practice whenever and wherever they happen to be. We formed our team for the 2016 Microsoft Imagine Cup, where we got third prize. And even Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, remarked how great our product is. After that, we raised seed funding in 2017, and within half a year, we launched our product almost exactly a year ago. Our business model is twofold. We use a monthly or yearly subscription for individual B2C users, mostly medical students. And also, we are developing a special version for institutions with features that are useful for them and with custom institutional pricing. So far, in the past year since we've launched, more than 38,000 users have downloaded our app. Almost 1,000 of them have signed up for the premium version. And as you can see, our users are from all over the world. We have also organized the world's first international diagnostic Olympiad, where more than 800 participants from 60 countries compared their diagnostic skills and competed against each other. We also have a couple of partnerships with universities. We have University of Debrecen, our alma mater university, as our official development partner, and there are other partnerships in different stages. So as of now, we are looking for further business partnerships and also interested in further funding. This is our team and advisory board, and thank you for your attention.
I've definitely seen a lot of companies looking at this space. It's just which end of the chain, because you're really about improving the skills of doctors to make assessments.
Make better diagnosis, yes.
And then there's also this whole other piece, AI piece, which is then trying to, then you make a diagnosis, then what do you do? Which is the next step. So for treating them. So I'm just sort of like, so this is quite a crowded space, and where do you see that piece coming back to you?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. So we specifically focus on the process of educating medical students and doctors to make better diagnoses themselves. So we focus on this part because it's true that treatment is an important part, and there are lots of companies there. There are also lots of companies building AIs as a decision system to help doctors. We don't want to do this. We believe that AIs are not yet there to replace doctors. We need to train doctors to be as good in diagnostics as possible. And since the correct diagnosis is the basis for the correct treatment, we focus on this slot, making the correct diagnosis. And we believe that this particular space is much less crowded.
Great. Can we ask one more question?
Sorry, we have to, my apologies. If you have more questions, you can see them afterwards, yeah?
So when I was 7, my mother told me that I couldn't have a toy. It just wasn't in the budget. We couldn't afford it. So upset, but still determined, I grabbed a stack of newspapers, sold them to anyone I saw for any amount that they would pay. And sure, they only bought it because I was a cute little 7-year-old selling newspapers. But I purchased enough to buy my toy. And years later, that same lens, that same approach would allow me to come from an under-resourced household, low-income household, to attend college and achieve my goals in a community where many don't. Now with We Thrive, we're bringing that exact same platform, that approach and lens to under-resourced communities nationwide. We Thrive itself is a platform for entrepreneurship education, where we specifically train and work with students and teachers during the classroom who are using our curricular resources so that their students are using entrepreneurship as a practice field for tomorrow's economy. Our students are building real companies earning real revenues, earning $250 on average as 11-year-olds. And we're also taught during the school day. Imagine your third or fourth period just after science or just before physical education to ensure that at the core of your education, you will be ready for tomorrow's economy. The core difference between We Thrive and a lot of other things is that we start with the untapped and overlooked potential of the nation, which means that we have to start from the very basics and the ground up of entrepreneurship and how to get that student from ideation all the way to launch, starting at 11 years old. 4 key differences between We Thrive and others in the space is that we're more than high school. As I mentioned a moment ago, we start at 11, not at 15 in 9th grade. Furthermore, we also have a platform, which means that we're not just a city entity that's restricted to how we can commute to that school and work with those teachers or work with the number of teachers that come into our center. Furthermore, we work with real companies. And lastly, again, we focus on under-resourced communities, but we are focused on bringing entrepreneurship education to the center of American education. Our business model, because we're platformized, allows engaged teachers and students to play the center. We specifically partner with colleges as well as corporations who are looking to diversify their audiences and ensure that when they work with the students and specifically target to our students, that they're getting the students who have already proven that they're able to achieve to the standards of their schools and/or internships or jobs. Lastly, we're also looking to work with city governments as well for initiatives like Pre-K for All, for example. If anyone's familiar with those kinds of initiatives that cities have long ago implemented, but do have a hard time getting to the people who need it most. We're also complemented by sales to networks like Aspire Charter School, as well as districts as well. And as a 501c3, we also have a unique partnership to not only earn revenue from all these things I mentioned that for-profit companies have, but we also get non-equity dilutive capital as well through impact grants, as well as corporate sponsors like you see this partnership here that we ran with Upwork. In just 3 years, we've grown to more than a dozen cities, and we work with more than 2,000 young entrepreneurs per year. We've also earned more than 300,000 corporate sponsorships with working with major corporations like WeWork, Fossil, Microsoft, and many others who you see here. This fall, we're going to centralize our platform such that any school can truly access it. Right now, we've approached this as a direct model to ensure that we singularly acquire schools. This fall, we're going to be opening up thinkcode.org for entrepreneurship. We're working with a host of strategic partners who are not only diversifying our curriculum, but also the students who can have access to it as well, paving the way for 50,000 young entrepreneurs by fall 2020. And we have the means to do it. Not only do we have networks of influence like the Forbes 30 list, as well as Echoing Green, but we also have teachers and principals who love us and are telling us stories already, and partners like Campaign for Black Male Achievement, who have already paved way. Can you turn it up? Who have already paved time for things like the My Brother's Keepers initiative back when Obama was the presidency. And thanks to social sector leaders like Hillary Clinton, we also have a number of individuals who are championing our praises. This tweet alone brought in more than 3 dozen school leaders. And we have the leadership to do it. We have individuals who have worked at the top of the social sector at places like Ashoka and launched their own social enterprise accelerators, people who have done work within Department of Education, and I myself have a history of working within Startup for Execution and recognized for that execution with an Echoing Green Fellowship, as well as the Forbes 30 list for social entrepreneurs. And for what we don't know, we have amazing smart people to let us know as well. Individuals like Nyla Bullitt, CEO of Jumpstart, as well as Chris Mann at City Year, and also millennial super founders like Aaron Samuels at Blavity, David Yaris at JSwipe, and even Victoria Taylor at WeWork, amongst many others. Imagine a world where every single 14-year-old in the United States graduates future ready for tomorrow's economy. an economy where automation is coming, an economy where many other things are displacing the education they're learning today. We're already doing that throughout New York City, Boston, Springfield, Mobile, Alabama, LA, and more. But with your support, we can reach millions more. Thank you.
Without like going into a lot of detail, what's your secret sauce to make yours not like just some boring platform with tons of information? How do you actually make it engaging so an 11-year-old takes action and doesn't think like, oh, I can't do this?
100%. High level, we built from the ground up for that 11-year-old, right? Every other education initiative, they were built by teachers who saw a need for entrepreneurship, and that's the flaw. We actually, because I went to Babson College, I work directly with our professors who make the Babson curriculum. We don't advertise this enough, but we've condensed the Babson curriculum essentially to an 11, 12-year-old level. And things like that, partnerships like that, are what we're bringing to the platform.
Do you have pathways for students who've gone through this program and started companies to lead into college or to lead to some kind of degrees or credentials of some kind as a result of the experience they gained?
100%. So that's exactly why I left this up. We set up a bunch of strategic partnerships like college, like TEDx. So actually, we've done a major initiative in the past, partnering with local TEDx's, to make sure that We Thrive is just an activation mechanism, right? We can get you at 14 years old and you make $5,000 of revenues and you're still going to hit another XYZ years. And so we're building those channels and have already begun to do so as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I have one more round of applause for these amazing companies? I didn't have an ending slide. I'm sorry. I don't want to go up 162 either. Thank you so much for coming. The judges are going to choose one winner to move on to the finals, who will pitch tomorrow at the conference at 8:30 a.m. I believe 8:30 a.m. So thank you so much for coming.
I really loved your pitch. It was amazing. I'm a speech and language pathologist.
Go, guys. Don't stand near the judges. Go. Don't stand anywhere near the judges. Leave. Don't stand anywhere near the judges. Go. Don't stand anywhere near the
Nicely done. That's good. More important.